You're up there for me, Sean. That's pretty
like
badass.
That? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Oh, here we are. Now we're live.
We are live. All right.
We're live on the right page too, I think.
Hey, Blue Collar Recruiting.
I see us out there.
Yeah, let me share it.
It's the real deal.
Here we are.
Guys, I want to just say cheers.
On the right page too, I think.
Hey.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
I hear four voices, only see three guys, man.
Dude, we're just that big of personalities.
And I've only had a quarter of a beer. Blue Skies Recruiting, thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Josh Taylor with Ecotech Power Wash with us tonight. Dan Plata, CEO of Blue Skies, and little old Shady McAllister O'Hara Day here.
Yeah, baby.
How's that? So
hashtag the Easter Bunny. Let's go.
Yeah, I celebrate Easter all the time. Sunday, I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. We're going to have church in our home on video with Father Tom.
There you go.
That'll be awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it. So we got Josh on tonight. Do me a favor before we get kicking here. Do me a favor and hit like, and then like and share and share. And one of the things I'm going to try to remember to do, I'm going to ask Dan and Josh both. And if I have one, I'll throw it in. I want to know somewhere, I'll ask this by the end of this, what one of your best either client stories is, like funny client story, or a funny employee story. And then anybody out there watching, go ahead and pound on the comments. I'd love to hear or read your stories too. I think that's one of the funniest things to sit down at a, if you hook up with people at a convention or something like that, just rap about the funny stuff. And I had about 30 Amish people working for me at one time, so I can go on for like.
You got some stories.
Holy cow, Sarah Fisher, you bet.
How many Sarah Fishers did you have?
I'm looking forward to these stories.
We don't want to turn it into Kingpin though, so we better behave at least a little bit here.
I was going to say, the only funny one that comes to my mind, I don't know if it's appropriate. We may have to, a couple more beers, we'll see.
All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah, a couple more of those Bush NAs. Look out, here he comes.
It won't be inappropriate. It might be disproportionate, but not inappropriate.
So here, let me throw this one out there as I'm sharing it and as people are jumping on, because I think this is pretty cool about Josh Taylor is that Josh used to be in the medical field and like has seen some shit, and also I think has an additional level of respect for everything that's happening right now. And some empathy and probably like pulling on the heartstrings a little bit more. Not that it's not for everybody, but Josh, I kind of like, I want to get you vulnerable a little bit as the co-host of the show. Like,
yeah, man.
What are you feeling? I'm sure you know more people than most that are still out there, like in our service industry anyway, that are out there on the front lines taking care of people. Like, what are you feeling? What's going through your head as these days go by and you hear all the stories that are going on?
Crazy, man. I mean, I know enough they say I know enough to be dangerous, right? To be worried enough. And so, I mean, there's so much different, like, information you get, from the news. And then, like you said, I have friends, colleagues, I used to work with doctors and nurses that are always posting and talking about, the lack of personal protective equipment, not having enough masks and gloves and, being on the front lines and the challenges with that. And then, we're sitting here trying to, keep our businesses afloat too. So it's like, it's weird. I get, like I said, kind of getting both sides, like the whole nursing side of it. And I don't know, man, I feel for them. I got a ton of respect for, anyone out there that's on the front lines, first responders, doctors, nurses, putting themselves at risk. And it's a tough time, man. It's a tough place to be right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any like, what's the best way to put it? Positive stories that you're hearing from the medical world from anybody that's in your circle?
Well, so I used to work at a hospital down in Baltimore City, and I mean, it's positive. You just hear about the ERs being over. They were really overrun, especially in the very beginning of this thing, because everybody who had a cough thought they needed to go to the hospital, which is what.
Yeah. Yep. Froze up on me.
Yeah, I think so. I'm good. You're good.
All right, I'm still here. Well, let's so
JT,
I
just
want
hop
to
back
I
on.
want to get into Josh's background a little bit so we set the stage on
Yeah.
where he's coming from.
For
And
sure.
we'll make fun of him while he's all frozen up because he can probably hear what we're saying.
Probably.
So
Go ahead.
you go.
You go.
Your
You go.
show.
Well, I mean, basically, I mean, I was going to be talking to Josh a little bit about his growth, because Josh, I've only known Josh for a couple years, and we've talked a lot. He did a demo with us and everything else, and met him in Branson, and I mean, I didn't realize he was only in business for like 3 years. 3 or 4 years right now. It just seems like, you go to this convention in Branson, Missouri. Dan and I went down there.
You mean Missouri?
Oh yeah, Missouri, and the roads are something like this, and then that's the hill, and then we're walking up hills, and so there's what? How many people go to that convention? Power washing, window
You got
cleaning.
1,500 at the huge convention
Yeah,
last
so
year.
that's a pretty big deal. It's a good size, and I mean, it seems like Josh had been around for 15, 25 years or something like that. Just knew a lot of people, real good guy. So I'm real excited to have him on tonight.
Yeah, we'll get him back in here. He had technical difficulties. So let's scheme a little bit.
Sure.
There's a few things. So for those that don't know, so Josh is out in Baltimore, runs. Last year, we'll have to verify. I think he wanted to hit 2 million. I think he's closer to like 1.5. And this year was like gunning real hard for 2. Last year was the big push. This year was, capitalizing on all that marketing and investment and sales and that sort of thing. And obviously, with what we're going through, it's a really hard time to be in that second year of just made the investment. I mean, Josh was running $1 million business before, but anytime, like, it gets more expensive to double your business the bigger you get.
Yeah.
So that's a big investment in salespeople and trucks and transits and the this and the that and the equipment and all the marketing to fill it all. So I want to hear like this trajectory and like how many people you have to hire to go from like, the 100,000 to the 1.5 million and to keep it. You still have turnover. And now when you have turnover at the same percentage, it's more people, right?
Right. There's the thing that happens, I think, which is sort of the puzzle for a lot of business owners in our industry, in the service industry, is, how do you get there, and what risk do you have to take? Hey, has anybody seen Josh?
He's back in the house. There he is. There he is.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know if it's my internet or what.
Technical difficulties.
Might be. You're freezing up again. It might be.
Too many windows open.
Let me see here.
There you go.
Don't have Facebook open on your computer. That's my advice, because I've made that mistake. If you have Facebook open on your computer with the live going, it's too much, at least for my crappy internet. So as Josh works on his internets, so I like there's that ramp up, but as we know in the cleaning industry, and what I kind of want to hash out with them is it's all about capacity and demand, right? They're like the mathematical formula has to be capacity equals demand equals kicking ass. And if capacity doesn't equal demand, it's more like capacity minus demand. Like the greater that differential is in either direction, whether it's negative or positive, means like you're effed. The more demand and capacity are out of line. So
if your capacity is, and when we talk about capacity and demand is basically customer demand. How many customers do you have out there demanding that you come clean for them? And then you're talking about capacity, which, in simple terms, is employees. How many employees do you have to match that demand, that capacity? So when capacity and demand aren't in line, then somebody's hurting. And typically what happens is if you've got more demand than you do capacity, your client service will suffer because you got way too much going on and not enough employees to do the cleaning. So you're in trouble, right? You're talking about
Josh, are you working right now? Are you voxing your team? You working?
No, so my house internet's not working, but I have a jetpack. So my wife's hooking me up. She's going out to the truck to get it. I'm barely catching a signal right now, so I may lose you in the next 5 minutes until I get it.
All right, we'll keep setting the stage, and we'll have like the best questions lined up for you, just rapid fire. So
Sounds good.
I'm gonna keep an eye on comments here as we go. So I'm tuning into the live feed with the comments. If you're watching, there's, I don't know, 36 people watching right now. If you're watching and you have questions for Josh, like we've kind of set the stage a little bit, Josh, we were talking about you while you were gone. So you went from 0 to like 1.5 million last year, around there, right? Am I hitting that number about right?
Yeah, 1.3. Yeah.
Okay. And so this year, I think you were shooting for 2 was the magic number. But
Yep.
you really haven't been. I mean, it's not like you've been at it for a decade, right? It's 5 years or less.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, if you look at total, I've been incorporated. I've been in business for about 7. But
Okay.
the first 4.5, 5 years, just owner operator, was more of like a hobby. I still worked part-time as a nurse.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I didn't have a team or anything like that. I didn't have any systems. I, sold price, not value, and just kind of went out and hustled every day in my truck by myself.
Your wife is watching, so don't say anything stupid now. She's gonna catch you.
Hi, hon.
Jason Guy is on. He says, "Hey guys,
My man.
Jason's the man."
Josh, I've got a couple questions for you here. With so when you started to really grow the business and soar, were you doing all the selling? Did you hire somebody? One of the things that's really difficult for our industry to sort of crack this nut is sales, because I do recruiting for a lot of companies around the country. And all of a sudden there was this huge demand in January. And this is before all this nonsense was going on in the economy and the virus. There was a huge demand for me to recruit salespeople for the power washing, window cleaning, maid service, the lawns care, whatever it was. I mean, it's never been like that. So I think, the economy was still on fire. Unemployment was at 2.5, 3%, which, basically meant every human being in this country was working that was able to. And so where did this, I really think you had a big impact on that, because word was getting out that, you were hiring salespeople, and, not just one salesperson to get some things going and feel your way through it. But I mean, you were really pounding away at us recruiting for you for some salespeople. And then all of a sudden in January, I'm telling you, there had to be 30 companies calling me up going, we need you to recruit for sales. And I think it's a difficult thing. And what I saw was a lot of different pay structures, 100% commission, and all these other things. I think that right now, if we could dial back to January before all this nonsense, that would have been the biggest hot button in the world to talk about at that time. What was your game plan going into it, thinking, about that? And then how did you execute on that?
So a lot to unpack. So I honestly feel like the message has been, you watch guys like Pat Clark, Brandon Vaughn, I kind of followed right behind their model, and, I didn't reinvent the wheel. They, had really large sales teams. That's how they really grew their business and were able to put up big numbers, right? You can only sell so much as a one-man sales operation. So you have to have a sales team essentially. So that was always my plan. Once I decided, that really wanted to go in that direction with building a team, scaling the business, I knew I had to get a sales team in place. So, I had reached out to you guys last year, I think right when you were rolling the whole recruiting service out. And that was the plan. I just kind of did the math, I was setting sales targets of like 300 to 350,000 first year for each salesperson. So then I was, reverse engineering, hitting the number that we needed to hit, my contribution with the commercial, relationships that I had and the sales that I could put up. So that's how I kind of figured out, I need 3 or 4 salespeople. I think I ended up having 5 last year. So I went from 0 to 5 by like mid-May. One of them didn't last. So then I cruised through most of the year with about 4 of them. But I didn't have any systems for recruiting people. You guys knew that. I think I had 4 employees starting last year, the beginning of the year. And by May I had like 22.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a rant. So I guess the next question is how are you still here and that Janine didn't kill you? And that ramp up, as somebody's trying to scale the way you scaled, give me limit it to 2 big key takeaways from that. Maybe one on the sales side and one on the technician side. When you're hiring people like crazy like that, what do you have to do to get it right?
I don't think I got it right at all. I think it's a constant learning process. You know what I mean?
I love that answer. I love it because it can be messy, but if you, and it's seriously real quick, and then I'll let you go. Answer. There's this, people get paranoid about or scared to try to grow. I mean, people are so afraid to succeed. It just blows my mind. And we're all in this for risk to begin with. What are you doing in business if you're not a risky human being? You've got to calculate some things, but sooner or later, you got to push the pedal down. And it might not be perfect, but you know what? What's the old saying? Dan with the eggs, or scramble some eggs, crack some eggs, drink a beer. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're gonna make an omelet, you gotta crack some
that
one. So talk to that, man, because it wasn't like you didn't do it perfectly. In fact, it was messy.
It was very messy. I mean, you got to remember, I didn't have any employees. I mean, I had like one guy that would work part-time for me each year. I had a van that like went part-time while I was out doing my thing. So I didn't even have like leadership or management, experience or training. And I didn't really know how to deal with people. I mean, I knew how to deal with people because I was in healthcare, just from what I had in life. But, actually being a leader, showing up every day, motivating people, leading people, holding people accountable. Those were things I had to learn. So, I mean, it really came down to systems. Like I said, I didn't have it figured out, but I planned as best as I could. We're seasonal. We're kind of like the same longitudinal, or was that latitudinal line as you guys. So we experienced the 4 seasons. So in the winter, I just dove in and planned. I tried to put systems in place, built out, the training system as much as I could, which really was not that great last year. It was good enough. I mean, we were able to double, but we've seen a lot of the holes along the way. So my whole thing is I guess you just can't be scared, right? Have some sort of a plan in place, right? Not planning is planning to fail, or what, I don't know how the saying goes, but so anyway, putting a plan in place, and then I think just being committed to improving, right? Having meetings, communication with your team is the most important thing. That way you can stay ahead of problems. You can find out what's going on. Being super open, willing, right? Open-minded. So when, you got one person on your team telling you this, you listen, you guys put your heads together and you just, kind of improve. So just being committed to the process, basically.
One of the things too that you mentioned, and I get, I had a cleaning business for about 20 years. And one of the things I got asked over the last, few years was, if you had to do things all over again, what would you have done differently? And the number one thing I always say is I would have either hired or attached my hip to the hip of somebody that knew a lot more about it than I did. And that's kind of what you started out saying was, you really started to Vaughn and Pat Clark and some other people, you attached yourself to other people that were succeeding. And I didn't do that when I started out, and I lost tens of thousands of dollars, and I would have grown so much quicker had I done that. And that's one of the biggest regrets I've ever had in business, was not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? They say don't trade places with any, don't take advice from somebody you wouldn't trade places with, right?
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, I just kind of looked at the guys that were doing it, the guys that had, really good proven track records and success. I said, that's what I want. That's the kind of business I want for myself, freedom to spend more time with my family, a business that's automated, runs itself. And so I just, I was in a fortunate situation.
Here's the thing that cracks me up. So I'll get one of the biggest, most difficult things that I have to deal with recruiting is, hey, Sean, I want a sales guy, and I don't want to pay him anything. And then I'll give him 100% commission, but no leads. And if he gets his own leads, I'll pay him a little bit more, and I might get him some lead. And I'm going, okay, this is at 2.2% unemployment in your state, dude. And you don't want to pay this guy. You have no benefits. You have nothing. I mean, literally. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me why they'd want, your company must be just outstanding. Give me some reasons why they should work for you. And literally, I can't tell you how hard it was for a business owner to tell me 2 or 3 things, just 2 or 3 things that somebody would be attracted to work for you. What are those 2 or 3 things? And I don't know how to write a job description if you don't want to. Hi, I come to this company. We're not going to pay you shit. Maybe 100% commission. I have no idea what your forecast should be, and you're not getting a freaking lead from me. And by the way, no benefits. Come on in. Come on. And I'm sitting there going, you got to pay me a hell of a lot more to do this than,
John, why are you working for Blue Skies? That's our business model. No,
Yeah, that's a lot right there, man. I tell you, the thing is that, I know there's hybrids out there. There's guys that can do it all, but in my experience so far with the cleaning industry and the home service, there's like two mindsets. There's the hunter, and then there's the lead runners, and it's really hard to find one that can do it all.
Yeah.
I've found that. I mean, I'm not saying it can't. Like when I say lead runner, I mean we get a lot of leads. We're really, I think we're pretty good at lead gen. Jason Guy, he's on here.
hashtag Jason Guy.
Hashtag, man, shout out. He's my dude. He's good at what he does, and but it's like a different mindset, right? And you can't like just feed guys leads all day long and then all of a sudden expect them to like transition, I feel like, into hunting mode. Like it's something they have to do. Yeah. So if you want that hybrid position, you got to set it up that way. And then, like you said, I mean, why should they come work for you? Like there's a lot of great sales opportunity out there for people that know how to sell. And what's one of the number one things people want is security, right? They want a guaranteed paycheck. They want a base. You got to be offering a base if you're looking for a half decent salesperson. So whether it's a base versus commission or a draw versus commission, however you want to word it, I think that's something you need to consider when you bring someone in.
I want to tie a couple things together then. So Dan, you talked a lot about when Josh was off, capacity and demand. And we talk about that a lot, right? So again, demand is how many customers basically do I need to take care of? And capacity is how many employees do I have, and is that a perfect match, right? That's capacity and demand when we talk about that. So Josh is like gung-ho higher end salespeople. We're recruiting salespeople for him left and right. So he's looking and going, and he doesn't have a perfect plan. So what about those people out there? And there's a lot of them that are out there, whether they're listening to us or not right now, but they will be down the road. And I've heard this dozens and dozens of times. How do I hire a salesperson when I don't think I have the money to hire a salesperson? You're the sort of the money guy, the financial guy. How do you do that? And I think this all ties in capacity and demand, hiring a salesperson. You better pay the salesperson, right? And then what is it that's going to attract a salesperson to work for the company? So I think that's the stumbling point for a lot of people out there. Is, I'm making a decent amount of money for myself, barely on the bottom line. How am I going to finance this? How am I going to do that? Is it do you bank on capacity and then say, okay, cool, I'm getting enough leads in, I could talk about that. What would you suggest to somebody that doesn't think they can financially hire a salesperson?
Well, I throw that one to Josh too, because Josh ramped up a sales team when no work was coming in, right? So it was like needed some runway to train some guys. Josh, did you have? I mean, I'll pose this as a question.
Yeah.
Like, how did you ramp them up from a draw to commission perspective? And what was your commission structure in terms of your leads versus leads they hunted, as you said?
Real quick, does he look like Bono right now, or is it just me? Doesn't he look like Bono? He does, man.
Yeah.
Only I could sing like Bono.
Bloody Sunday. Let's hear it right now.
No. Need a whole lot of these NAs, let me tell you, man.
Need about 50 of them to start feeling it.
Hey, wait, who's karaoke? Wasn't that Dan Karaoke and Branson a couple years ago?
I don't know.
Oh, shit.
So I mean, back to your question, Sean. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to like ramp up sales and try to pace that, but there's always an investment. There's an investment when you hire a tech. There's an investment when you hire a salesperson. There's an investment when you buy a piece of equipment. Everything in business is an investment. Given that people are always our most important attribute. If you're doing like in-person sales and you're running down leads and you're hunting for new leads, like that is a key component of the business. That's the capacity component of the business, the demand component of the business. Debbie Sardone always said it best, like, think about how much money you make off of your best customer, and then think about how much your best employee makes you. Those, like, that is the lifeblood of your company, is all the people, and salespeople too. So they're always going to be investment. You always need to spend money before they start making you money, but you have to know when it's not the right person or the right fit. So Josh, can you talk through how you structured the pay, knowing that you're going to have to hire these people and train them when you weren't cranking out a ton of work and the cash flow wasn't coming in? how did you kind of bootstrap that to make it through last early spring?
Number one's a budget, right? It all starts with the budget. So coming out of the year, so
Oh, you're speaking my language.
yeah, there we go, right? So 2020 now, 2019, 2018 was the year I left the field, started selling in person. I went from like 275 in revenue, we hit 645. So I had a really good cash position coming out of that because I was ops manager, I was the salesperson, so there was no, there was no sales commission going out. I made a lot of money that year, but I planned on growing and.
You made a lot of money that year, you mean?
Well, we did right the business, so we put it all back in to the business basically the following year, investing in training, investing in employees and systems and stuff. So, I mean, planning the having the cash flow position and planning that out was obviously key. But you got to look at like you said, you have to look at employees as an investment. I would argue they're an asset, man. Like you said, you can't. It's not about how do you afford to hire a salesman. You can't afford not to hire one, really. And that's the mindset piece. You got to look at it like that. But here's the other part of this. So when you're going to hire a salesperson, you got to really ask yourself, do I have a lead problem, right? Because then you got to figure out the type of salesperson you need to hire. So if I have a ton of leads running in, I need somebody who can, I don't have to necessarily, let's just say this, I don't necessarily need to be looking at somebody's network when I'm hiring them. I need to look at, when I come in and bring them in for an interview, do they pass? Do they make it up to the interview part? Do they show up? And then when I'm sitting there talking to them, do I enjoy talking to them, right? Like the connection piece is everything. We call it relationship sales. Like it's all about connecting with people. People buy from people that they like. Yep. So if you can connect with me and I like you and we're having a good conversation, thumbs up, man. Like we have a good system. I can teach you the system and how to sell. So, if you don't have if you don't have a lead problem, you got a ton of leads coming in, you just need a guy who's a guy or gal that's super friendly, that can talk to people and connect. Because after that, and they need to follow a system, obviously, too. But the connection piece is probably what I look for the most in a salesperson. And then if I'm looking for a hunter, again, if you have a lead problem, then you need to look at somebody who maybe has some experience in actually going out and cultivating leads, prospecting, has maybe done that in the past, or you need to have a really good system in place already that you can bring them in and adapt them to for doing that.
Yep. So tell me, and here's another one that comes in a lot with salespeople from the guy, that looks through the lens of a recruiter. And that's what is it that it's an amazing thing to me. I get some people that I want a salesperson, and to them, a salesperson is basically somebody that's sort of doing scheduling, customer service, and sales. And then I've got some that are like, okay, they need to really, do customer service, and they need to go out on the job site, and they need to, make sure everything's going. I mean, literally the definition of a salesperson in our industry is about 5 different definitions. And I understand that we want, in the sense of business, you want every asset person that you have working at full capacity, right? And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But does that mean that you're going to take a salesperson, and if they're not at full capacity, you're going to make sure they understand how to be a customer service person too? Or how do you know, what do you do with that? What's your salesperson?
So I'll tell you mine, but here's my take on all of it. I think, to have a successful organization, it's all about getting the right people in the right seat on the bus, right? Yep. Putting people based on their talents, what their strengths are, in the right spot. And then the other big piece of that is an org chart, really clearly defining what the responsibilities are going to be up front, and having that, just clearly outlined. And it just depends on the model. Like there's a lot of guys that do a lot of over the phone sales, and they're salespeople. They're on the phone and they're actually entering stuff and doing data entry into the CRM. My guys don't do any data entry. We have CSRs that answer the phone. They take a call, they rate the lead, and then they dispatch the lead to a salesperson. That salesperson goes out, runs the lead in person. If they make a sale, they have mobile access to the app, so they have to take their pictures. They have to secure a signed contract, and then they actually call in. We have a cell phone, and the line is only there for credit cards. So we don't like it just for security, so that we get credit cards. There's nothing written down anywhere. So they'll call it in, and then the office manager or CSR, whoever's in there, knows that they have to drop everything they're doing to answer that phone to secure a credit card deposit, basically. So, I mean, we're just very specific on what they do. We do they get tagged in every job that they sell when it goes to production. So every day they have jobs show up on their schedule that are being completed that they sold maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. And the reason we do that, the purpose for that is they call them at the end of the day to make sure that the job went well, make sure they were satisfied, and then they ask for a referral at that time.
Okay.
So as far as customer service, they do that, but they don't get involved in resolving any issues or anything like that. If there's any sort of feedback, any negative or positive, they relay it to the team. So if it's, something with the delivery, obviously they're going to relay that to operations, and then our operations manager will, pick it apart and take care of it.
You fired an operation manager as well, haven't you?
Yeah, a couple. Phew, that's a hard spot. That's a hard position to fill.
That's the hardest.
That was a matter of really understanding the market and what it cost to acquire a really good ops manager in my market. I know that I wasn't paying enough for a while. And once I understood what I needed to, we got a hell of a guy. I got a hell of a team right now because of you guys. These guys, they lift me up, man. They're amazing.
I got to say this though, and we ran into somebody at a convention not long ago. Dan and I did, and she's fabulous. Has an outstanding cleaning service, and she's a little Irish gal, so she's very dear to my heart. And she's got the same CSR as you do, Dan, another Dan. And there were some crazy things going on, but she was saying that it's tough to find an operation manager, and so one of the things that I talked to her about was our most successful clients, as far as me recruiting for companies and for people like you, Josh, our most successful clients literally are the ones that get out of our way, let us do some things, let us ask some questions. And you are fabulous at and I don't mean to say getting out of our way, but you trust us. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned that on this call because you and I don't talk as much as we used to. And I wanted to make sure to tell you how much I appreciate that. And it's not that you're not involved at all or anything like that, but you trust us. And there's so many obstacles, and recruiting is a messy game. It's not an easy thing. And, the market changes very quickly. And just one example, if the market was normal, okay, and a week before a major holiday like Easter, nobody's looking for a job. And I'll get 5 people calling me saying, "Hey man, I need to," and I'm like, "You better do this in 2 weeks because I've been begging you to do this. I've been, and the salesperson thing. I'll talk to people and I'll be like, "You gotta, I think we gotta probably up the ante a little bit." I'm just saying, I'm looking at 1,000 jobs that say we give benefits, we do this, we do that, and it's, and I just appreciate that. What is it that and I think that's not just with us. I sense that you put people, like you said, in the right seat on the bus, whether it's a vendor, a supplier, an employee, or whatever it is, and all of a sudden magic starts to happen when you surround yourself with great people.
Yeah, I talked to Sid about this on the 80/20 podcast, and it's a matter of just finding the who that knows how, right? We don't have to know how to do everything. I stay in my lane, man. I know what I'm good at. I'm good at selling. I'm good at just vision and pushing big projects ahead. I'm a driver. I'm a results guy. I press, I motivate, but I'm not good at some of the technical stuff. That's why I reached out to you guys. And when it came to hiring, higher level people, you guys had to make it rain with techs. And we've talked about that. That's what you always have done. And I challenged you kind of, to say, hey, I'm looking at, I need to get some salespeople. I need somebody in operations. And you were honest. You're like, we've never really done that before, but I'm all about it. Let's try it out. Let's take it on. And it was like a learning process, but you were telling me, and I was asking you, and again, you guys are the pros, and you were looking at the other ads in the area. And, Josh, we think for an ops manager of the caliber that you're looking for, with that many people, we're seeing ads for X amount, versus what you're advertising for. Maybe we should consider that. So then I would go dive back in the budget and I'd figure out a way to make it work because, I'm committed to the process. So yeah, I mean, I stay out of your way. I guess that's how you put it. But I really just think you guys are awesome at what you do. And I think you're the pro. So I let the pros do what they're good at. And I stick to what I'm good at. I think it's a lot of ego with a lot of people. I think you got to have an honest conversation with yourself, man, and figure out what it is you're good at, what you're not so great at, and be okay with it, and then find the right people.
That's a great point, man. The ego thing, because it's right in line with what I was saying about myself. One of the things I regret most was not hiring a coach or finding a consultant or just even engaging and hanging out with people that had been around a while, and it hurt me bad. It really did. And that's nothing more than my ego getting in the way. So I completely understand it and learn from it. But yeah, you're right, man. That's a big deal, man. And, Platta's got an ego so big, I can't even believe it. It's, look at that.
You're too quiet over there, Plata. What are you doing?
I kept like starting to ask a question, but then you guys were just freaking firing and just going. And as the co-host of the show, I can't ruin the flow, but I do want to throw out. So one of the things, because Bobby Walker co-hosts my bookkeeping beer and BS nonsense.
Who?
And he's good. I don't know. Bobby, Big Bobby.
Who's Bobby?
Bob Stalker. I know him.
Who's he?
So I gotta show some love to the viewers here. So Mitch Wood, he's all over it. He's already stealing Jason Guy. He's setting up a 9 a.m. Zoom with Jason. So good job, Mitch. Way to be on it. We got Phil Rogers in the house. Jason corrected you on. He said you did 650 in 2018, not 2019. And then I was like, I felt. But then he's just calling it one thing. Jason says pride in your work is one thing. Ego just gets in the way. Our man Nick DeMarco over in Scotty. Go Pack. He just jumped on. I almost wore a Packer hat, but instead I went for the Packer koozie, which reminds me this beer is empty, so I got to grab my next one. I do want to say, so I know Nick runs a huge business, so Nick, feel free to chime in on how you're managing capacity and demand through all this stuff. But as we get into, this, like, I'll call it like purgatory of coronavirus, like we've kind of settled. So the panic is over. Everybody kind of is getting a lay of the land. The emotional decisions have stopped and people are starting to be rational. I see anyway. I'm curious, Josh, what you're seeing from your own capacity and demand. Like, what % of normal are you at? How are you scaling your crew? Because the way we have to scale is we still always have to match capacity to demand. So what are the decisions you're making to try to match capacity to demand and be ready for, is it 1 month or 2 months or 3 months from now when just shit blows up and hits the fan and you got to like rescale up? How are you approaching that and what's your strategy right now?
Ooh, it's a lot to unpack. All right, here we go.
You're damn right.
So my biggest focus right now is keeping my team intact because I'm very optimistic. I believe that we're going to come out on the other side of this, and I think we're going to get hit with a huge wave. I think we're going to get hit with a lot of demand, especially as cleaners, exterior cleaners, interior janitorial services. It's just going to be a huge demand. That's my personal feeling on it. I'm with you. We've been on everyone's been making fear-based decisions, and we're starting to pivot now and switch more to logic-based decision making. This is kind of becoming the new normal for people, so they're starting to realize, the property managers are reaching out. Okay, let's go ahead and start moving forward with spring cleaning and get these projects going. So we've seen a lot of momentum in the last week or so. We've been running 3 trucks for about 3 weeks. When those started, I immediately did a very detailed P&L review, try to figure out things that I could cut. I'm still going through that, and I do that every week. I challenge certain things. Do I need it? Do I not need it? And I go through that route all the time. There's a lot of government funding, been applying for that. But I've been working really closely with Jason, with my digital marketing guy, and just figuring out other ways to generate leads. He's been working with me to help me out because it's been really tough. Obviously, like what we planned and what we budgeted for is not happening. We still had a record-breaking March. But it's relative, right? I'm not celebrating and now because I have a much bigger team now, but it's not the March we had planned for, basically. So we're ahead of where we were last year. But it's really just a day at a time, man. I'm trying to get the cost per lead down. We had to lower our prices some because we wanted to increase those rate. We were getting price sensitivity to pricing, stuff like that.
Josh, let me ask you something real quick. Have you gone into any other services? Related to
Yep.
what you've done. In other words, have you gone into some other niche or anything like that, just to tap into some different revenue? Or talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the disinfecting and sanitizing. That's the big buzzwords that are being thrown around right now. So we're using a product. It's a hospital grade disinfectant called Vital Oxide. And basically, we haven't got a lot of traction yet. Like we haven't have a lot of contracts. We had 2 jobs come in, but really the focus right now is just positioning ourselves for when it does take off. Yep. Because what I predict and what I see happening is, eventually the economy's going to have to start rolling again. People have to go to work. So, but the virus is going nowhere, right? So when there's an outbreak, when there's a positive test, those workplaces, those places, those restaurants and things like that, they're going to need to get disinfected, fogged, or, sanitized when that happens. So I foresee the next 12 to 18 months, that's what they're saying it's going to take to be able to get a vaccine in place that can really, it'll be a game changer as far as the social distancing and all the precautions that we're taking right now.
So go ahead.
We pivoted, we're doing fogging and offering some interior sanitizing and disinfecting services.
And I think that's not something that you're going, okay, cool, that's going to make me a millionaire doing that, but it's just something you have to do to keep your business going, stay positive, all that stuff. I mean, Dan's kind of, was laughing at me a little bit, and then but now he's following up going, how's it going, man? How's it going? A couple of weeks ago, I'm like, hey, because all we do is recruit for service, in cleaning industry, basically lawn service and things like that. I'm like, hey man, I got a customer up in Canada. I'm placing truck drivers, and I got some nurses I'm placing too, man. And he's like, you're doing what? And I'm like, yeah, I got some truck drivers. He goes, number one, you're in a different country. Number two, what the hell are you doing with truck drivers? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm in this other recruiting group, and there's all these people doing this. And some guy said, hey, I need help. I said, you're damn right I'm here. What do you need? And so my brother, I got an older brother that drove truck for 33 years. So I'm like, hey man, I need to talk to you a little bit, bro. And so I sat down and I learned everything you can. I know the difference between an AZ license, a CD, an A license, and that, a flatbed, tarps, not tarps, and this and that. Yeah, I will recruit anything if I have to, but that's the thing. It's like you in January, if you told me I was going to be recruiting truck drivers and nurses in Canada, what are you, nuts? But we didn't veer from what we do. It's still recruiting. It's still matching a human being with what a company needs as far as hiring. And that's really what recruiting is all about. And sales, I always say sales and recruiting are so much the same. And so, it was a matter of, and I've always talked about this too, through 20 years of being in business, I can assure you there were times I'm looking at the wall or looking at the ceiling and my wife's sleeping next to me and I'm going, I have no idea how I'm going to survive tomorrow, and those are the things we talk about with the fear we talked about at the beginning of this, right? But somehow or another, I've never found staring at the wall to solve any of my problems, yet I do it. And I think that's okay sometimes, but within the next day, you can't be staring at a wall. You need to be engaging with people, talking to, it's emails, it's a phone call, whatever it is, you've got to look, search, and listen and go. And I think, that's some advice I can give some people, especially during crappy times, because
keep moving.
You really do. There's so many people probably out here listening now, and I've seen it on the Facebook groups. I'm part of about 100 of them now, just talking about, I'm staring at the wall and I'm doing this and I'm depressed and I'm this and that. And I get it. I really, really get it. I've been there. Okay. Throughout my years of doing this, but it's never helped doing that for a long time. It's okay maybe to reflect a little bit and that type of thing, but if you're not moving and you have no idea what can happen in your life if you knock on doors, if you pick up a phone just to talk to somebody, just get on a Facebook group and really engage with people is a life changer. And I think that can help you survive through this. And that's just my little Shady McAllister advice to people out there is just move
Love
and
it.
talk and engage, man.
I got so Kedma's my Conquer coach, and one of the first things, I think it's like our first or second meeting where she was our group coach. She said, you know, you get 15 minutes to milk a bad day, and then you need to fucking get over it. Like,
I love Kedma, man.
like,
I can't say that on my group. That's your group. That's
oh yeah, sorry.
killing me.
But it's like, yeah, nobody's like, even your spouse at some point is gonna be like, yeah, they're gonna get sick. Yeah, they'll show you some empathy, but you get 15 minutes. That's her home rule. You get 15 minutes to milk a bad day, then you got to get over it and start doing something about it.
Yep.
Like,
yeah,
then you're intentional about those 15 minutes.
Yeah, she says something else. I love it. She calls fear false evidence appearing real. I love that saying, because that's the truth, man. Fear is just, it's a bunch of BS. It really is. It's just you, and you got to change your perception.
Your mindset.
Like, you stare at the wall, whatever it takes, you got to be able to pull yourself out of it. Lean on somebody else. You know, if you got, a spouse or, a good network, a community of people. I love, we're talking about Kevin. I love the Conquer program for that reason. We have daily hangouts. We're always connecting. We're always talking, leaning on each other. We provide that space where we can vent every day, talk about the problems that we're having. But then, like you said, get the F over it, man. It's time to move on. Got to have the warrior mindset. What's the alternative? We're going to sit there in the fetal position.
Right.
That's not me. And I don't see that. Most entrepreneurs, I don't think are like that. I think that's why we're different. I think we're warriors, man. We're fighters. It's just in us.
What's gonna happen is gonna happen. So what is the sense of thinking so negatively and worrying? And worry is probably the most important thing if you're in the camp of trying to waste energy. I mean, worrying drains so much energy out of a human being. It's just worthless, man. It's absolutely worthless.
There's a saying in the Bible. I'm gonna butcher it. Matt Clark can probably set me straight. I think he said it the other day. Like, you don't get another day by worrying. Like, you don't get another day of life by sitting around worrying about it. Like, worrying is nothing. That's living in the future, man. You got to live it the now.
Right.
That's the truth. Day at a time.
You hear that a lot. Like, live in the now. Don't worry about tomorrow type of thing. But I even take it a little bit further where don't worry about yesterday either, because there's so many people that beat themselves up over a mistake they made yesterday. And it might hurt you for a week or two. But to sit there and even worry about that isn't going to be helpful. It's what's happening today. And that's
adults, man.
That's it.
That's how adults are. We either live in the future or we live in the past. You know who lives in the present? Kids. We can learn so much from our kids, dude. They're always living in the present. They don't care about it. And I'm not saying be careless when I say don't live, in the future, plan and stuff. But when it becomes obsessive and you become neurotic about thinking about what could be or what was, that's when it's a problem. And that's when you have to, you got to hit the timeout.
Right.
So let me bring it back, because you did a political thing, Josh. You missed the second part of my 8-part question. So
18-part question.
It was at least an 8-part question. I didn't write all the parts down, but I'm pretty sure it was like a cow's stomach. So when you're ramping back up, so what % are you right now in terms of, like, I know you're ahead of where you were last year, but you wanted to be X. Like, do you have guys on the sideline? And to get back to where you want to be, if it's, May is still May and June is still June, like, we're an essential service. People are going to want some sort of sense of normalcy. And even if we're behind a little bit now, it's just going to be the calm before the storm. So how are you planning to ramp up for that? Like, from a training perspective, from a marketing perspective, like, how do you escalate capacity and demand as fast as you're going to need to?
All right. So with lead gen, you talked about, I stay out of your way. I stay out of Jason's way. I love it. He's good at. With that said, he gives me, he reaches out and he says, hey, I think maybe we should put a little bit aside and start testing this. We pulled out of AdWords altogether. I'm just going to AdWords, we were looking at triple digits sometimes per lead, cost per lead. So we were like, where were people at? Like, they're not out driving around. Yard signs aren't doing that great. So we were like, people are on social media. It's like the social media usage has tripled. So we started running Facebook ads and started crushing it. So we're right there. That's what we're, generating leads right now is on Facebook. He's been killing it. And then what we're doing is we're still testing AdWords. We're waiting to see, that trend, catch the trend. So if we start to see it move in the right direction, then we'll start pivoting and go back to that.
That's
but
funny. We haven't in Minneapolis. We haven't seen that. We've seen the switch, but maybe it's just the demand for Google AdWords has gone down and not as many people running them. So the cost hasn't gone up. But
yeah,
I know what you're saying. There's less people clicking on it, more people floating on Facebook for sure.
it is going to be different for the market. Like this is not going to be the same for my market as is for yours. I'm in the shelter in place in Maryland. I mean, it's not like that in every state. I think you guys are as well. But regardless, it's going to be different in every state. Yep. The other piece to that too, when we're talking about the cost per lead with AdWords and Facebook. Forget what I was going with this. Let me think. Hold up. So Facebook, I completely lost my thought. The Bush NA are getting to my head.
It could have been the 18-point question.
No, but hey, what I was going to say though is we're constantly testing still, because if you start to see the trend go in the other direction, then we'll switch over. But for us, we have seen a huge drop in Google Ads. And what I wanted to say about it was you've got a lot of other pressure washing companies and cleaning companies that aren't out. They're not out working. So they're sitting around, they're Googling themselves. So there's certain power washer of Annapolis or whatever their company name is, and then your ad's coming up and they're clicking on ads and stuff like that. That's a thing, whether you want to admit it or not, and whether they're maliciously doing it or not. Maybe it's just out of curiosity. Right. Or like unintentional clicking like that going on as well. Yep. So that costs, that'll drive your cost per lead up then. So again, that's why we kind of pivoted, but that's how we're managing the leads and the marketing piece. We're ready to go. Jason's on it. I let him do his job. With recruiting and having the team in place, we're still recruiting, we're still hiring. So we're bringing people in. I haven't turned it off with you guys. I'm still interviewing all the time and bringing people in. Yep. And what I'm telling them, just having an honest conversation with them. Some of them are on unemployment from another job. Some of them are, they don't have a job. They're looking to work as soon as possible. And I'm telling them, look, like whether we don't have a position for them right now, but we will. And we got people in the pipeline basically. So I think you got to.
One of the things you said that got my attention was Dan and I talk a lot with Paul, our marketing guy. And one of the conversations we have is, Paul, how's the marketing going for our location in Cleveland? And I want to know, because I want to know what we need to do for recruiting. Yeah. Again, it's that capacity and demand. And so, okay, Paul, what's going on in St. Louis? Okay, well, there might be something I need to do. I'll pump it up if you think there's some, if you think you're starting to see some things pop up. So I want to, what might be a good idea is if I talk to Jason a little bit when the economy starts picking up a little bit, and or through you or whatever you want to do to get a feel of how that demand's going, so you can concentrate on what you do best. And if I could connect with the guy that's generating your revenue, your demand, because that's what we're trying to do is match capacity and demand. Yep. And I'm talking to him if that's something maybe to think about for us to do down the road. Yeah. And if I did that with my clients, man, I'll tell you what, if they open up to that and allow me to understand who's creating your demand for you, who's your marketing person, or if it's in-house, whatever, let me understand that, because maybe I can start to recruit and really tighten that capacity and demand. Because one thing I know, I don't know a lot about the bookkeeping stuff and accounting stuff and all that, but I do know anytime capacity, hey, but didn't I do really good on that capacity and demand green graph thing that I came up with? That was
pretty sexy with those, with that conditional formatting in there. You made me pretty proud.
Hey, we kind of still use it though, right?
Sure do.
All right, so I know a little bit. That's another big key, though, is capacity and demand.
Yeah, another big piece is your current book of business. I mean, we've been hammering them, and again, positioning ourselves. I told you about the fogging. We haven't got a ton of traction right now. The focus is just educating people and letting them know that we do it, that we offer the service, and getting our name out there and brand exposure as much as possible. So there's PR, there's Facebook, there's email blasts. We're doing all that right now, anticipating that. And then we're currently marketing to people because we have our clients, I guess they're home, they're looking at stuff. We've been doing text blasts, and I'm generating tons and tons of revenue from that. So, I mean, that's probably half of our revenue is from our repeat customers right now, if not, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. So that's another really low hanging fruit.
I'm going to go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, because it connects to this. What about somebody that's sitting at home that doesn't know, or, doesn't have any revenue at all coming in really, and just trying to survive right now? Like all of us are. What should they be doing if they can't keep recruiting open and they can't? There's still ways that you can recruit. And anybody that's listening to this, I'll help you get application flow and stuff like that.
You've got to be recruiting right now.
But you've got to be doing it.
Wait.
Always be recruiting.
Always be recruiting.
The ABCs.
I beat him to it. Always be recruiting. You have to be. There is such an opportunity to build an amazing team coming out of this thing. If you're not recruiting right now, you need to.
You're nuts.
You need to start right now. I mean, if you're planning on and coming out on the other side and you want to come out hot and heavy, and you want to have a hell of a team, there's no better opportunity than right now. There's 6 million people applied last week for unemployment. Those are good, hardworking people, man, that are going to need jobs. So you need to be recruiting right now and getting yourself in front of them before, the rush comes.
I know Don Williams is on because you just got about 11 billion hearts that flashed on the screen on my Facebook app.
Man.
About it. Don was on last week with us. But if you're not recruiting right now, and I'm not trying to kick anybody but that's down, but if you're not recruiting right now, you're sulking and you're feeling sorry for yourself. And you have now 14 minutes to do that, and then you need to knock it off and start being a business owner and being an operator. And if you're sulking and not recruiting right now, then you're going to be sulking and complaining about that later. You're just going to end up doing more of the same later because you're going to come out of this thing and everybody else is going to have all the great employees and you're going to be chasing dumpster fires again.
Yeah, it's challenging, Dan. And I'll say this. I know how a lot of business owners feel right now. They're kind of dancing around on the edge. They're kind of in and kind of out. They're not sure. Some of them are questioning whether they're going to come out of this on the other side or whether they're going to be in business. I was there. I know. But there comes a time you got to make the decision. You're are you all in or are you all out? Are you going to see this thing through? Are you going to fight your ass off to the end? And then you have to make that decision. And I'm not saying spend a bunch of money recruiting right now.
Right.
Let me just go backwards. There's things you can do that don't cost you any money to be recruiting, but you need to be thinking that way, especially if that's your goal and you're all in and you're going to fight your way through this and you're going to come out on the other side. Because again, there's going to be a ton of opportunity. And there's already, like you said, there's already a lot of momentum. We're starting to see things swing. I've been hearing it across the board in Conquer. We were just talking about it, Dan. There's a lot of people saying that they're starting to get more phone calls. The phones are ringing more. So I see it coming. And my point is that what I want to tell people and encourage them, just don't miss on the opportunity because there are so many people out there that are good people that need jobs coming out of this.
Yeah.
Well, and they're going to be the best because they're the ones that want to work hard and want a job. You're going to see the cream of the crop coming out into the labor force first.
Yep.
Then you're going to see the B players come out second, and then you're going to see the C players. It's that simple. People that we want to hire are motivated, positive, right? These are the assessments we give people. These are the people that we try to hire. They're the positive people that want to get out there, work hard, and do good things. And those are the people that are going to be the A players are first. And if you're not going to be prepared and at least start to cultivate relationships with them now, you're gonna be sitting there going, great, I'm gonna pay for the C players, and that's not what you want to do.
Let me, and I don't have all the data on this one, Sean, because I don't get all of our emails in Minneapolis anymore. I know we're spending so last year in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I mean, we're between, and Sean, I'm sure I'll get it wrong, but Salt Lake, Seattle, Minneapolis, probably 3 of the 5 worst labor markets to try to find, decent blue collar labor. Yep. So last year Sean was spending on my behalf $1,000 for Minneapolis to boost ads to get guys coming in. I'm not gonna lie, we by far built our best team, but it felt crazy to spend $1,000 per guy. But then when I listened to Debbie talk about how much your employee makes you versus how much you make on a customer, it was okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. I can spend $1,000 on the right guy. And so we did, and it was phenomenal. And we had a great team last year. We spent $10,000 to get them, but we had a phenomenal team and they paid for themselves over and over and over again. And we were super profitable because turnover is way more expensive than paying the $1,000 for that guy. if you could spend $1,000 and know you got the right guy, you would do it every time, right guy or gal.
Yep.
I would do it for the peace of mind, but I'm like you said, easily
Yeah.
justify it for the financial piece too. It is so much more expensive when you have to turn an employee over.
You guys know I'm more of like the interior cleaning guy. What is an average revenue of one technician that goes out to do power washing or window cleaning? What's the revenue that person brings in a year?
On the low end, 100,000. On the high end, probably 250,000 a year.
Is there anybody that wouldn't throw, $1,000 on a table to get $100,000 worth of revenue? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't understand that for the life of me. That's a no-brainer.
It's a mindset thing, Sean.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, I think you have to do it once. Once you see the success in it, it's like there's like these milestones, right? Like for business owners and entrepreneurs that they go through. Like the first time they think that something, like I put it with pressure washing, Dan, you probably laugh too. Like, you got all these guys who are like, no one can clean a roof better than me. And it's like a huge milestone when someone else, they hire a guy and let him go clean a roof or something. and
sit on a roof and leave.
Yeah. And then you got that milestone. Then you got another milestone, like,
Yeah.
like hiring a salesperson and like, you're not the guy out there meeting every customer and selling to them. I mean, like you start giving up little responsibilities and
it's your baby, right? It's always tough to give up your baby.
Yeah.
When it's your thing and it's your baby, it's tough to put somebody else out there to do it. And it doesn't get easier though. Cause once you fire yourself from being in the field and you're the salesperson, like then that's your new baby. And when you leave that, it's just as hard to give up. Like it never gets easier.
Right.
Yeah.
But
you have faith.
I never finished where I was going with that other one, which was right now, Sean, you would know better than I would about what Minneapolis is spending on recruiting because I don't follow Minneapolis specifically anymore. But we're spending like maybe $500 a month in boosting in Minneapolis, I think. And today, so last year we'd spend $1,000 and I'd get like a guy,
Right.
a guy, and it worked. It worked great. We were super profitable. We had a great year. This year we spent $500. Today I got 2 emails from guys that like can be on unemployment making good money right now. Like everybody that is applying right now, yeah, they're laid off, but like they would rather work than sit and take this big unemployment check. And so you already know it's the right type of guy.
Right.
And for them to email, so like I'm only getting the scraps because I'm like, they're emailing me, but I'm not getting all the emails. So like I got 2 of them. I don't even know how many Brent and Andrew got today in Minneapolis. They're running our Minneapolis show. I just kind of am on the fringe helping them out. But so we're spending $500 a month in it a day. I got 2 emails. Who knows how many they got? And this is after somebody goes through the ringer. So these are like tested.
Yeah.
Like we already know they're good. Of these candidates that get through to us, we hire about 9 out of 10 of them. So like today I got 2. And we've already got 2 that we're ready to hire as the work starts coming in and ramping up. So it's like, man, if you're not building your list right now with 8 players,
and like, that's perfect. And like, you're right. That's exactly right. I mean, we were to a point where it was over $1,000 to find a human being to do windows in Minnesota. And that's still, I think, a good investment, but it's not, but you always want to beat that down as much as you can. And that's fine. And, and you know this, I always have to have conversation with you about all these tools I want to use. And we've found a lot of tools to use to recruit, for our company and for our clients, and the thing about it is that I spent a lot of time trying to figure out some tools and figure out how can we do things better. And that's what I do. And I don't like shiny objects, and I like free trials. And I'd go to Dan. I go, hey, dude, I got like a free trial. So it's like I got to put
try this thing.
Yeah, the spreadsheet guy. When I need a spreadsheet to remind me of how many free trials I have on the spreadsheet, so I know when to cancel them. Man, I'm full-time canceling free trials.
Good thing you have a bookkeeping guy that works with you.
Yeah, right. I can only color code something on a spreadsheet. I don't know what the hell it does. but that's it. And I've got 2 or 3 things every now and again that are like game changers, man. And but there's like, to Josh's point, there's a lot of stuff you can do that's free out there. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff that's free. There's still free job posting. There's still, things you can do. And if you have no clue, research it. And then if you have no clue, message me and I'll give you 15 different ways you can do stuff free to at least engage a little bit with people that are going to be ready to work. The other thing too, you talk about the demand. The demand will be there when the economy opens up, because the economy's like this, and this is called America, right? When that thing opens up, we're going to be a monster. It's going to be a beast, right? And the thing about it is, and I've talked to a lot of people that know other comrades of ours that are out of business already, and have just can't do it, and that's fine, and something will happen with them. There's others that don't know if they're going to be in business in the next week or two, 3 weeks from now, a month from now. And a lot of those will go out of business. Okay. Imagine the demand when you have 5, 10, 15 of your competitors around you going out of business. You know how many clients are going to be looking for a maid service in a couple of weeks? Maybe 4 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 8 weeks. I don't know, but I'm like Josh, and I said this 3 weeks ago. I think it's going to open up a lot. It came on us like crazy fast. I think it's going to be crazy fast when it opens up. And that's how I feel about it. And there's going to be your competitors around you out of business, and they've got, even if they've only got 50 customers each. Okay, that's hundreds of human beings going, I need to find another service because mine's out of business. You better be ready for that.
I agree, man. And I tell you, it's hard to, some people say it's not going to be like a light switch going on. And I don't think it will be like that for everything. Right. But I mean, like, it doesn't surprise me that you had to spend $1,000 to get a window cleaner. I mean, unemployment was what, like below 3%, or
it was like -% in Minnesota.
Minnesota was nuts.
Yeah.
It's like so low.
People that had multiple jobs, if that was a deduction of unemployment percentages, we'd have been negative.
I mean, that's the thing, man. I mean, the economy was like a freaking steamroller, dude. Like, people need you. In my opinion, I need your services more than I ever have because it's so competitive out there, and the economy is rolling. So I feel like, I'm with you. I think it's going to open back up, and it's going to be huge. There's going to be a huge demand for one, and then the supply will be down because, like you said, I don't think every business is going to survive this, unfortunately.
Yeah. The other thing too with that is, one of the biggest complaints I get from clients was, I get application flow. I just can't keep up with it, and I don't have time to call 100 applicants and this and that. Well, at 2.5% unemployment a couple months ago, and you didn't have time to go through applications, I got news for you. How many people were unemployed last week? Okay, the first week it was like 30 million people filed unemployment. Okay, I got news for you. You're going to have more application flow than you can even imagine.
Yeah.
And you need to, if you don't do it through us, and that's fine, whatever. I'm telling you right now, you better have an automated system, or you're going to be hiring the C people left and right if you even get them. You better have an automated system, and you better have it in place now.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick.
Oh man, I was about to put you on the spot real quick.
I know. I saw your mouth just go like this, and I'm like,
you know when I'm about to ask a question, I fold my arms like, all right, when these guys wrap up, I've been sitting on this question for at least 20 seconds.
Well, do you have another question for Josh, or did you want another subject, or first, what are you doing? Because I want to find out what one of your funniest either client or employee stories is.
Man, I still go back to, my go-to, but and it like didn't change until now. There's plenty of like goofy, stories of employees doing silly stuff. I want to go to two of them because my origin story of when I had been working with Blue Skies for like 5 years before I came on board full time. I was in the corporate world. I was kind of like moonlighting, doing finance stuff with Mike Dahlke, one of my business partners, and then took on the full-time job. But I was still in my corporate job, and I would I would schedule interviews to like, we started a home cleaning business from scratch. That was like the first thing we did. So I'd set up interviews in the morning before I went to work. And then I'd leave work early to go and do more interviews, like trying to find the right home cleaner to get our business started. Like, how hard can it be to find a home cleaner, right?
So you're like negotiating futures contracts with somebody in China and then interviewing for a cleaning tech in the afternoon.
Yeah. I'm slinging chicken feed. I'm slinging corn futures, and I'm watching what China's buying on the soybean meal market and how many ships of this went and how many ships of that went. And I'm locking in McDonald's dollar burrito price for the next year, which after I left that job, you notice their dollar burritos in the morning aren't $1 anymore. So I don't know what that's saying about my
God forbid what those Chinese did.
Tragedy.
But no, my predecessor was great. He was much better than I was. But so I'm like slinging. I'm like in the morning, in the afternoons, doing all these interviews, thinking like this is gonna be so easy, right? Like we're hiring a home cleaner. How hard can this be? So can't find. Like I kept going early, and then like my boss knew that I was doing this, right? So he's like, what are you up to? I was like, he knew I was leaving. Like we had a date 3 months before that date was even there. He knew I was leaving. He's like, what are you up to? And I'm like, I'm trying to hire a home cleaner, but I go schedule these interviews for like 7, 8, 9 in the morning. None of them show up. Like they're all no-shows, every single one of them. And then I'd leave at 3 p.m. and schedule like 2 or 3 more of them, and they'd all be no-shows. So I did this over and over and over again. My first 10 were all no-shows. But my 11th one showed up. Like once I get into those double digits, like finally, cracked one, had somebody show up. And therefore it was like, well, clearly that's the right person because they're so different than everybody else that had applied so far that said they were coming in for an interview. So I hired that one, and then she didn't show up on her first day. And to be honest, like running that home cleaning business in Minneapolis until we figured out the recruiting system that Sean built. Like at this time, this was 4 years ago, and we were, get a handful of applications on Indeed, call them, text them, and they'd be like, yeah, I'll be there.
We thought we were good and had no idea what we were doing, man.
So the classic, 10 no-shows, hired one, they no-showed on the first day anyway. And then I just like repeat, right? But my other one this last year, so I have a tendency to just place a ton of trust in people. Like I'm super trusting, and I will always trust people, like hands down, no doubt, no questions until they break that trust. And if they break that trust, like they're never getting back in. It's just not a question. So I have a tendency of hiring people fast, which I know you're supposed to hire slow, but I'll hire fast if I have a decent vibe. Because I'm always like, the best interview is still out in the field. I've thought people were going to be terrible, but as long as they showed up and they were like decently competent. Sean, you probably remember Erica, who was like one of our top-notch home cleaners.
Oh yeah.
Worst interview ever. And it was like, you know what? You're a human being. You showed up. You're goofy. Go clean some houses and we'll see what you do. Your interview is really this first week. So I'd interview people and I'd hire them. But our office manager, Nina, bless her heart, she can like smell somebody right away. She would tell me, she's like, they're not going to make it a month, Dan. Like I'm telling you right now. And I'd be like, just give them a chance, Nina. Like they're a little different. That's cool. Like we've had different people work out before. We had a guy that referred to himself as Sven last year. His name was Steve. He's like, call me Sven. And then she's like, what the hell are you talking about, man? He's like, well, you see, like, I've seen Frozen, like, and he's like, well, there. It's like, that's not a joke. Like, there's no connection there. Like, just because there's a character in that movie named Sven, that doesn't mean you should call yourself Sven. It doesn't make any sense. So, and he kept calling her Hun. So eventually she was like, look, if you call me Hun again, like, I'm going to drop kick you. I mean, and Nina's like,
yeah.
A stout gal. She would drop kick somebody. Like she's.
How did you find Nina? How'd you find Nina real quick?
I don't know. You found her. I don't know.
I remember the question. Can you drop kick a son of a bitch in an office named Frozen whatever?
So I
check that box.
Going off on my tangent here, but Nina can like sniff them out right away. So I'm interviewing this guy as we get towards the fall, and we need 1 or 2 more guys to like make our fall push. And on his way, his car breaks down. It's one of those guys. But like, I'm kind of getting a vibe from him that he's like not making shit up. Like he's fighting and scratching and clawing, and he gets to the interview. Like somebody picked him up and dropped him off at the interview. And it's like, this is already kind of a bad sign, but I'm going to see. And this guy's got to be just high on something. like the stories he's going off about, and he's like, and he just got out. He was, he lost his whole family, and he was in jail for doing drugs and this and that. But now he's clean, and he's like loud. So our office, you can hear everything. Like there's no insulation in these walls. You can hear what's going on. So Nina always knows, and I talk loud. Nina always knows what I'm saying. This guy's like double my decibel level. He's just going into it, and this was I've never. And like, shame on me. I've never stopped somebody mid-interview and been like, this ain't gonna work. I should, but I don't have like the
Most don't. Most people don't.
Yeah, me neither, man. I thought that. I thought to myself,
like, maybe this will get better. And his interview was so funny because he'd answer a question and I'd be like, that was a phenomenal answer, right? And the next question I'd be like, dude, you are out of your freaking mind. Like, why would you say something like that in an interview? Like even if that's a true statement, like you wouldn't even say that in an interview. Like, why would you say? But I appreciate that you're being totally honest. Like, I know you're being totally honest because you couldn't make that shit up. So we go through this interview, and I know Nina's sitting in the other room answering the phones, checking emails, and like doing her office manager thing. And she's got to know, like, she's hearing everything, right? So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, if I hire this guy, I'm getting drop kicked by Nina. Like, she heard everything. If I hire this guy, I'm for sure getting drop kicked. So, I sent him out, and I was like, hey, I don't remember if I told him no or if we'll get back to you or whatever. But like the minute I heard that door shut, Nina's at my door, like looking around the side of it, looking at me, and I was like, Nina, I didn't hire him. Like, I promise I didn't hire him. Like, she was coming for me. She was coming around that corner. Like, if you told him he's coming in, I'm out of here. I was like, I didn't hire him. I know.
My office manager's the same way. She's like, you can't hire him. You can't hire him. You just can't. You can't hire them. Yep. She's got to put it to the Nina test. We'll have to call it.
The Nina test. You got to put a bulldog in charge of that stuff. You remember we talked to Martha and we were going back and forth, and she says, "Yeah, my manager, she just does, she's very." And I said, "Martha, don't worry. You got to have somebody like that, man. You got to have somebody that's a bulldog running the office. That's all there is to it." Josh, What do you got? Anything good?
I don't have anything like too funny. Like I said, the one was kind of inappropriate. We joke with one of my techs I've had working with me for 2 years, 3 years now. I won't even get into that one, but I will tell you a crazy story that happened. I thought my life was over. I thought I was out of business. So 2 years ago, I had a small bleach leak. I had a little tote. And so my guys were, filling up in the morning, and they probably got about 5 to 10 gallons of bleach all over the floor. They left the pump running, and it came out of the tank. Well, the way our unit was, we had conjoining walls. One side was a block. So they took double units. It was flex space, and they would split them into 2 units with like a sheetrock wall. So I had a guy next to me that was in like remodeling and construction. Well, the tank was against that wall. They flushed all the water out of the place. Well, all of it went against that wall and soaked under the wall. So I get a call from my office. Well, at the time, girl that was working in my office, she's like, the guy next door from your unit called, and he said that like they're smelling all this bleach. They can't breathe. They got a baby in there. Like his daughter works the front office, and she's got like a pack and play, and the baby stays in there where they're working, and they can't breathe. You need to get over there right away. So I get a hold of the guy. I call, and he's like freaking out. He's like, you got to come over here. It smells like bleach, and there's like this puddle under my wall, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, well, just chill. I'll be right there. There's no leak. I can tell you that right now. He's like, there's got to be a leak. So, dude, I pull up, and no shit. I mean, I was about 45 minutes away. My heart just dropped. I pulled around the corner. All I saw was lights. They brought a hazmat team, like 2 hazmat teams from the surrounding counties. There was
surrounding counties,
fire trucks, the entire county. I'm like, I live in like, it's kind of a big county, but it's like a small town kind of county, good old boys and stuff.
Yep.
I pull up, and they're all looking for this guy, and I'm like, it's me. they're
Josh
like,
Taylor, I'm gonna go find that son of a bitch.
dude, my property manager was there. They had the doors wide open. They had all my stuff pulled out all over the place. And they had this tank, and there was these guys in PPE. I'm talking like CDC coronavirus PPE with face masks and white gown. And they're walking in around the tank, inspecting it, looking for a leak. Well, they wound up not finding a leak. I tell them, we washed it out, and we just thought it was like a mixture of water and everything. They ended up doing an air test. We ended up, I don't know how, but we got away with nothing, like a little slap on the wrist. MDE gave us a little bit of a slap because some of it leaked out and went down like the street to where the storm drain was. But I mean, to tell you, man, I was like, I thought my life was over. I was like, I'm done. I'm in. That's it. I'll call the bankruptcy lawyer tomorrow. I'm in.
I'm leaving my business in the back of a cop car because my guys leaked a little bleach.
I've got one, and since you didn't want to say anything vulgar, mine will be, and I'm going to try to clean it up as best I can. So when I first started my cleaning company, my mom worked for me, and we hired a few Amish people, like I said, and at least where I'm from, there's a lot of stories, and I think they're mostly rumors about crazy things with Amish people. And there was a saying I heard once, and I'll warn everybody, if the kids are in the room, send them away right now. Okay. There's sort of a saying in the Amish community where I'm from in Ohio. It's a place where men are men and sheep are scared. Okay. And some things like that, and so, and then there's things about family and, this and that, and all these crazy things. So anyway, with that said, it was like the first week we're at the office. And so, we get this desk is in here and mom's sitting there. Where the hell's the plug for this and this and that? And real quick, just to give a preface about my mom, Josh, you're a big wrestling guy. I'm come from a big wrestling family. I'll tell you guys a story about my mom getting kicked out of wrestling matches where the cops have to come and escort her
already.
So she's like a no nonsense player. Okay. So,
Saint Mary Day.
Oh, it's Mary Day's the woman. Trust me on that. So, so we're setting, and so what I got this fax machine. So this is, what's a fax machine? Those of you that don't know what a fax machine out there is, Google it. Mine was about this big back then. And so I said, I don't know where the hell the plug is because the office space that I rented was about 5 by 7. So I'm like, Mom, you got to hold down. So what had happened was you got to plug in the fax and do something. So it took 2 people to fax something in my office 25 years ago. And I had met this guy a day before all this is going on. He's an attorney, a couple doors down. And so Mom, here's the table right here. My mom's on the other side of the table. I'm sitting down. She's crawling underneath the other side of the table as I'm sitting down, trying to plug something in, and the door opens up. And there's the attorney, and he's looking at my mom's rear end underneath the table, and I'm sitting on the other side of the table. And he opens the door and says, my God, you guys really take that Amish thing serious, don't you? He shuts the door and leaves. I'm just like, what? Dude? I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. So I cleaned that up a lot. Did I do all right?
That's George Costanza right there.
Right, yeah.
Hey, smoke.
Ishmael, don't you do that, Ishmael.
Oh, that's good. That's classic.
Yeah, so that was one of them. And about a week after that, I had a van that the transmission was shot. And I had to go actually get it from one of the drivers that was picking up some of the Amish girls. We brought it back, and it literally about an hour later, there's this lady running up and down the hallway screaming, fire, there's a fire, everybody out of this building. It's an office building. My mom and I were running out of the building. The van that I brought back caught on fire and started half the building on fire and cars on both sides of it. And my mom is crying, you're going to lose everything. Oh my God. I said, Mom, I got insurance at the worst. I got insurance. And I said, let's, everybody's safe in this and that and the other. And so like, I don't know how many people, fire everywhere. 3 different counties, probably. I'm in a small town too. They're blowing windows out to get the fire out. You know, I just signed the lease 2 weeks prior to this. The windows are getting blown out. There's floods everywhere. And all these guys that have businesses next to mine, the new guy, there's like 25, 30 guys that own businesses standing next to me going, what's your name again, dude? And I'm just like, I don't even know what to say, you know? And so one of the things we're doing in Cleveland is this is the same landlord 28 years later. And Dan's like, you got to call this guy and let him know we're not paying him no more. This virus thing's crazy. You better do this and that. And Dan, I didn't tell you this. I call Rob up, who over years is a great friend of mine now. And I call him up. I says, hey, Rob, and you know, I told him, and he goes, you know what? He goes, let me go through the litany of shit you did and this and that. And he brought that up. That's why it came to my attention. And he goes, brother, whatever you guys need, just let me know. But yeah, so we did the Amish thing and burnt some buildings down. That was about it. That was the first 3 weeks.
Small business hustle.
First 3 weeks. I didn't know what I was doing. All right, that's me.
Man.
What else, man? Are we about done?
I mean, we're at the hour and a half mark, so we should probably knock it off and go hang out with our families and stuff.
That sounds good.
So, like, let's finish on a positive note here. We're in the purgatory, but we've gone down the emotional slide, and from here it's just we're kind of like waiting to see, right? So, like, next step, like, what's the next thing you're doing to prepare for the ramp up? I know I'll get her started because I've been working on this the last couple days, and I know this is our recruiting thing, but it's all about capacity and demand, right? Like, if you're not marketing and recruiting at exactly the same time at exactly the same pace, you're going to be messed up. Like, you have to do both together, right? You need the Jason guy, you need the Sean Day. You got to have both of them. So in Minneapolis, we've got all these great applicants coming in. And so, Josh, you were talking about some, you know, like Google AdWords changed in your market. So you're doing a lot of Facebook. One thing that we're looking at is we used to do a lot of radio, but people aren't driving, but they're at home. So we're looking at like TV spots, which we've never really looked at, but like a few grand to get on a live spot in the morning and do like a highlight where everybody's watching that morning local news to see what the latest update is. So we're pivoting and like going from radio to TV. What's the one thing that like you're working on right now to make a big move and pull out strong?
So in just a couple areas, right? We're still building the team. So like I said, I mean, really watching cash flow, managing that, making sure that we're covering all of our operating expenses, putting as much aside as we can so that we can just, you know, take off running when things start to move. But we're still advertising, we're still marketing, and we're still building the team. So we're still recruiting, getting guys in the pipeline, the people that we do have working for us. We were cool thing was we decided to go to a 6-day. So we went from working 5 days a week to 6 days a week, but our crew went to working a 4-day work week. So if that makes sense, we increased capacity by 1 day and then gave our guys just 4 long days rather than 5 working days. So we have more techs than we really need. So to flex, the cool part of that is we have a bigger team than we really need right now, but we're not really incurring any more costs, if that makes sense, because they're still only working, you know, they're paid per performance and they get paid when they work. So we have a pretty good team in place, and they're willing to go, 5 days a week if we need them to, just when we're trying to bridge and build and get more people. So just recruiting, constantly still advertising, if you can budget, if you have the money to advertise, if you have a good source for generating leads and it's cost effective and your customer acquisition cost makes sense to you, I would encourage you to keep doing that. But you got to be ready, right? There's going to be signals when this thing starts to really kick into gear, and you got to be there. You got to be ready to go, and you want to see those, and you want to be in front of them, and you want to catch them before everyone else does.
I like it.
Agreed.
Sean, finish this off with some. So we haven't done this yet. Bobby does a really good job. Now Bobby's watching, so I don't want to say he does a good job of anything, because that would not make sense in our idiom. But Bobby,
your what? Wait, what was that word?
Idiom.
That must be a spreadsheet thing. I don't understand that at all.
No, I just learned it from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yes. Okay.
But Bobby Eyes does a good job of like setting me up to say like, hey, you should probably tell people about what you do. So Sean, tell people about what you do, how you can help them, especially A, right now when they need to build their list of candidates, B, when they need to get out of this and they're going to have thousands of good applications to get through and they need to find the right ones. What can you do for them? And what are you doing right now? Because like you still have a recruiting business to keep afloat. What are you doing right now to keep that afloat while the rest of us are kind of like holding on?
Well, the first thing I'm doing is taking real good of clients that we have, number one. And the next thing we're doing is we're engaging. I know where my clients are that had to either say, Sean, I think I'm not sure if I'm going to be in business much longer and this and that. And I know that I need to still think about them because they could come back, probably will come back, the ones I know. And we're still looking into resume searches, database stuff, and recruiting for them. Not setting up interviews and things like that, but I've got things in place for that. When they're ready, I'll be ready. And I think whether you're a recruiter or not, if you own a business, you've got to do that. So I'm still engaging with all kinds of different applicants, and those that aren't. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook groups, I'm on everything, just engaging with people like we talk about. That's the first thing I'm doing. So taking care of clients that are still my clients in the best way ever. The next thing we're doing is I'm looking at improving our processes. My sister Denise is the best customer service person I've ever had or known in my lifetime. And her and I are talking all the time about it. We've got to improve our processes right now. We've got to improve where the holes. So we're doing that. And then there's things that, I'd like to do for people out there. If you don't have an automated system, if you don't know how to get free things going and engaging with people, let's look at it like this. Let's say that in 3 weeks to 4 weeks, Trump says, these 30 states are open for business, and the governors in those states say, restaurants, you can go back, you can do all these things. Let's say that's in 3 or 4 weeks. Would that seriously, would that make you fall off the chair if there's some states opening up in a month, 3 weeks? Wouldn't surprise me. Not the whole country, not gangbusters maybe, but I sure as hell would want to be prepared for that. So I'm looking forward to that. And if you need to just start to cultivate relationships and you don't think you're going to, have money or whatever it is, message me and I'll help you figure out what you can do. What I do is with my team is a client comes to me, whether it's Blue Skies or another, or Josh Taylor or whoever it is, and they say, I need somebody. I try to match their culture, that job title, that job description, that career path with the best human being that I can possibly find. And that's what we do. And we do it very quickly. There's an old saying, and Dan, you had mentioned it, that hire slow, fire fast. Not anymore. It's hire fast and fire fast.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, somebody else is going to hire that A player if you don't. So it's hire fast, but you can't do it if you don't have a system in place.
Yeah, I was going to add to that, Sean. One thing I want to say, I also work with Automate, Grow, Sell. I'm a Conquer coach. And with my clients, some of the things that we're focusing on, because, with the marketing, if you have Google ads, you have these things set up, it's really just a matter of turning them on, right, when things get cranking. But in the meantime, what we're focusing on is how we can improve those other areas of our business. So like if you don't have employees, but maybe you're thinking about hiring employees, what does that process look like? What does your onboarding process look like? Really, dialing that in so that when things do, start rolling again, you can easily funnel somebody into your system, have a training system that's built out in place so that you can get them from, recruiting, interviewing, proficient, and out doing work for you. So I would really encourage people, and I didn't think to say this because we kind of have this built out, but build that process out while you can right now and be prepared for the demand. And if you have the system for bringing them in, training them, and getting them out working, you're going to be a lot better off.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Is that a wrap?
I think so.
Wrap this baby up.
If you liked it, pound the like button.
Pound it. I'm doing it. Pound, 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 pound. PL.
Like.
Like, heart,
It's a pleasure, guys. Thanks for having